Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, folks. Michael Zuber, one rental at a time, back with his good friend in the channel, and content creator for the amazing course, How to Get Started One Rental at a Time, Mr. Todd Baldwin. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
I have a conversation that I don't think you and I have talked about yet, and that is the upcoming, soon-to-be epic housing crash. Housing crash is all over YouTube. People are talking about rates going up 1%, housing falling 10%. Kevin put out a video today that I did a live reaction to about interest rates going up 2.5% and purchasing power going down 25%. So Todd, when's this housing crash happening, man? Because I'm ready.
You know, as a greedy property buyer, I want the crash to come. I couldn't tell you when. I don't think it's going to be as dramatic as some of these YouTubers are saying, and maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe I'll eat my words, but I think that interest rates will rise. I don't know how high they will rise, but there's still a low supply and a big demand for housing. And even if interest rates go up, that won't necessarily change. So I think there will be a correction. I hope there will be a crash. I can't tell you when though, because I have no idea.
Yeah. So let's play this out, because I think there are some certain variables that we could tweak in the future, and maybe that makes a housing crash more or less. So let's assume, because right now let's assume the 30-year mortgage rate's 4% for easy math. Let's assume it shoots up to 7%. This is owner occ, so investors are 8.5. Let's assume it shoots up to 7% by the end of December. So this year, that probably means the Fed funds rate's at 3.5. So again, I'm not calling for this. I'm just playing what if with you. So what do you think happens? You know, the 30-year mortgage rate is suddenly 7% heading into 2023.
Oh man. Well, I feel like guys like us might be paying cash for some properties.
Yeah.
Amen. Yeah, I mean, borrowing money at 7%, that's rough. That's a little rough. I don't know that I would make the call to borrow at 7%. I think I'd probably pay cash. If you can't pay cash, which is most people, then hopefully the properties that you're buying are less expensive than they are today. But even if they are significantly less expensive, your monthly payment might be higher at 7% interest. So
exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it might not be great for first-time home buyers.
Yeah. So there's a couple of things that I think of, because again, if you take that one domino and you knock it over, I think there's some things that you could predict pretty certainly. Number one, transactions fall off a cliff because the move-up buyers stop. Because think about it, because this is what I don't think a lot of the people in the real estate field are ready for. And I'm talking to real estate agents, I'm talking to brokers, inspectors, everybody involved in the service of buying and selling homes. You all will need a second career. Because think about being a mom and pop who averages a 2.75 interest rate today. That's the average of loans done in the last 2 years. They've been living in their home, they have a growing family, and they're looking to buy that bigger place. There is zero chance, that they're going to go buy they're going to sell their 200K home and buy a 300K home, trade a 2.5 interest for a 7. The payment shock on that, Todd, would be, maybe we can do the math, but damn, that's got to be double.
Yeah, it'd be crazy.
Yeah. So that's not happening. So transactions will fall off a cliff. Second, I've been doing this a long time, and I've been in bad real estate markets. Life still happens. Death, divorce, sickness, job loss, all of these things. And I think if we hit 7% 30-year mortgage, it means we're in a recession, because I think the Fed will have huge demand destruction. So there's going to be a lot of people that need to sell. Certainly think foreclosures will go up in that environment, no doubt. But I also think the land of creative financing. I think I will do more creative finance deals in that environment, or I'll just pay cash, right? Because again, what people don't really understand, and I don't remember the exact number, but it's like 30% of homes in the US don't have mortgages.
Right.
So let's say mom and dad or grandpa or whoever it is owns a house, passes on, goes to the next whatever life thing, and his grandkids get the house. There's 5 of them. Most of the time, they don't want the house, right? That's granddad's house. It hasn't been updated in a while. It's on the other side of the country or whatever. They're going to sell it.
Mm-hmm.
In that environment, cash buyers are going to win,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because buying junk at 7% is not going to make sense because you got all the cash to fix it up. Then there's the people that just bought the home in the last 2 years and suddenly they got to leave California and move to Texas because that's where the jobs are. They want to sell. They got a little bit of equity, but they just can't get out.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a creative buyer comes in and goes, hey, let me do a subject to deal. The mortgage stays in your name, but I'll pay it. And then you rent it out. I mean, because again, the 80s, right? I went back and researched the 80s. Transactions fell 50%.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I tell real estate agents, you better get ready. But people were still doing deals. Carlton Sheets and Robert Allen and all of those folks, all those books that I'm sure you've read, or if you haven't, you should. That was the land of creative financing. So I think that comes back in a big way. So those are my first few thoughts if interest rates shoot to 7.
Yeah, buying subject to is incredible. I mean, if you can buy a house subject to the existing loan, you don't even have to qualify for it. You don't have to put up your cash or credit, and then you get a tenant in there to make the payments. I mean, that's magic. It's incredible. So yeah, if you can figure out a way to do that, I highly recommend it.
Yeah. So I think that again, folks, that's a skill I do not have. It's a deal I have not done. It's something that I look to add going forward. But yeah, I think that's interesting. The other thing that, again, I think happens at 7% is we have a nasty recession. Right. And oh, by the way, good news, folks. Inflation, the back of inflation is broken. I think if 30-year mortgage goes to 7%, the Fed funds rate is at 4.5%, the 10 years at 6%. I think inflation's broken because, again, you break it, as Paul Volcker told us, by creating demand destruction. And I think we break it. I also think unemployment shoots up to, 9%.
That'd be rough.
Yeah. I mean, these are just things I'm thinking about because, again, the future is so murky.
Mm-hmm.
But the sad thing is I don't even think housing crashes. I think transactions crash. And again, I'm defining a crash as 20%.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think values fall 20%. At least I think the only way I can get to a national housing crash of 20% is if we have a recession that lasts 2.5 years. Because what you need in housing is so sticky and it takes so much time. But if we had 9% unemployment for 18 months and a recession for 2+ years, I think we can get a housing crash at 20%.
Yeah,
I think so.
Well, we might see too, sort of like you were talking about, is someone needs to get out of a property because they got a new job somewhere, but interest rates have risen. So they might end up selling for a loss because they panic. They panic and sell. And that might happen too. And
yeah, for sure.
I feel for those folks.
Oh, it will certainly happen. Yeah. I mean, you come into this, you put 30% down, you got a bunch of room, but you got to get out. You don't want to carry 2 mortgage payments. There'll be a lot of people that sell at a loss. I'm just trying to play it out how we get to a 20% crash, given the good lending we have today. Everybody's got 98% have 30-year fixed rate debt. Most of it's below 3%. You have to get to a lot of people that become forced sellers.
Mm-hmm.
That's what people don't get about the Great Recession is we had 50% adjustable rate mortgages. Most of those were 2 and 28. So they were cool for 2 years, but at the reset period, it started to blow up. And that's where we created the cascading of craziness. We don't have that today.
Mm-hmm.
Right. In my market, again, I say this as somebody who invested in a market that fell 75%. My market, Fresno, California, peak to trough, 75%. It was painful.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason it got painful is because everybody started doing strategic defaults because they had to. It was the only option because the mortgage became unaffordable. Today, you got to live somewhere. And if you have a 30-year mortgage at 2.5%, where are you going to go? You're going to rent somewhere? Rent will be more expensive. So people will get roommates and stay. That will become the thing. your 2.5 or your 2.75 30-year mortgage is an asset. And your family members, people will come and move into your house before you will let that house go, because your only option is rent. And if rent is higher somewhere else, you're going to do everything you can to stay put, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. House hacking is going to be a big thing. Forced house hacking, or whatever it's called, required house hacking. So
Yeah.
I can't get to a 20% crash unless we have a, Great Depression 2.0, a 2-year recession, which I don't think there's been a 2-year recession where 8 quarters of negative growth. I don't remember one. I remember a 6 quarter, but not an 8 quarter. Yeah. So my brain can't get to a 20% national housing crash. How about you?
No, not based on the way things are going. I know it makes a great title and a great thumbnail, but I don't think it's going to get that bad. It certainly won't be like 2008, because that was all sorts of stuff with the banking industry going on. Like, it just won't be the same. I do hope for a correction. I honestly, I feel for first-time home buyers
Oh yeah.
who
Sure.
are competing with investors who are paying 6 or even 7 figures above asking, right? So I hope we see some change, but I don't think it's going to be a huge dramatic crash like the YouTubers are saying it will.
Yeah. The other thing to realize is real estate is hyper local. If you haven't figured that out yet with my discussion of focus in a buy box, you're not paying attention. I do think there will be some markets that got hyper competitive that are due for a 20% correction. But when I say there's no national 20% correction, that's what I think. I think best case, you could see 1 to 5% nationally. I think it's very likely that prices go up 3 to 5%, at least in nominal terms. If you adjust for inflation, they might be negative, but there could be a couple of cities that see 20% just because not enough supply, crazy demand, and then the demand leaves, they go back, they boomerang, maybe. But yeah, I don't see a national crash.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Same.
Awesome. So Todd, do me a favor. How can people find you and get part of your world?
Yes. If you guys want to connect with me on Instagram, my handle is @Todd J. Baldwin, and I post some YouTube videos as well.
Thanks, buddy.